What's up, y'all? We just finished reading The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I have a really hard time not saying Abercrombie, like
Me
Abercrombie and
too.
Fitch.
The
I always
clothing
accidentally
brand?
say it. I'm like, that's not right.
That's not it.
We're not sponsored, I swear.
But we could be.
But this was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and we have feelings. Or lack of feelings. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But
I think I have feelings about my lack of feelings is actually the way I describe it.
so when I met Joe Abercrombie, he signed the first Law trilogy for me, the next 3 books of that series, and then I bought myself this book, and then I got Dakota one signed as well. So super exciting for that. And then I got Anji Kills a King by Evan Lycum and met him in person as well. Both super awesome people. And it's important to know, I think this because he's British, but also because I'm not trying to stereotype British people, but I absolutely am. Very dry humor and he's just very dry person in general. Not like in a bad way. It's just I love dry humor, so it works for me. But you can tell in his writing, his voice translates as I hear it in his voice because of the way he speaks and his jokes and stuff. Which we'll touch on later. But the first thing I want to touch on is the cover. I don't hate it. It's definitely intriguing.
I just figured out that without the dust jacket, the cover looks way cooler.
This is sick.
Yeah,
the detail on that is nuts.
Cool. I like this a lot more than I like the actual cover.
And you know what is lame though?
The back is just
the
blank.
back is completely blank. That's a little lazy. But also, and I don't like the art style for these. This is not for me. I understand it's cool and intricate. It's not at all for me.
That's the Viga Wolf.
They banged.
Dang. Father Diaz and the Viga Wolf.
I get it. That werewolf something. Overall, I think the cover itself, the dust jacket, is okay. I'd be intrigued. Looking at it, it really doesn't have anything at all to do with it. What is intriguing? Pretty okay. But the actual cover itself is cool.
Which is actually how I would describe this book in its entirety.
Pretty okay.
Pretty okay. Spoilers.
This book's pretty okay. We're going to tell you why.
Yeah.
This book also came with a poster, which I will be throwing away after this because I'm never going to put this anywhere.
Yeah. Is that Alex? I guess. Or is it the Pope? That's got to be Alex.
No, this person's too old to be Alex. Or to be the Pope. Anyway, lame. But here we are. Dakota, I'm intrigued to hear from the horse's mouth. You are the horse.
Anyways,
tell me about these characters.
Is that what you wanted to know from the horse's mouth? I thought you were going to ask me something crazy. I was like, Curtis has a big question for me here.
You know what? I'll start off with something crazy. It's not even crazy. I'll just ask for a question. Okay, so we read First Law trilogy, right? And we had feelings. We liked it, but we had issues with the ending. Do you feel that this book was the same as that series? Was it different? How was this comparable to the First Law trilogy? Not necessarily rating wise, but just feelings wise.
Feelings wise, I enjoyed. Dang. No, I think I liked First Law a lot more because I had complaints about First Law trilogy, but I enjoyed the experience of the First Law trilogy. I really enjoyed the characters, the journey that we got taken on with the characters. And then I felt let down at the end of the First Law trilogy. I felt let down at the end of this. The characters I wasn't in love with. And the experience of the Devils was not I don't know. The First Law trilogy, the experience in my mind is it was a fun ride. The whole book, the whole story, the whole world that was crafted sticks out in my mind thinking back to it. And it was special. And I don't have the same fond memories of the Devils, even with recency bias.
I think we have a hard time. One, the First Law trilogy was a trilogy, so we had more of them. But I feel like I also did care about the characters more in First Law. There were some characters I did enjoy, and I liked their banter in this one. But we didn't get a lot of development from the main cast. We had a couple characters that got some actual development. I feel like Alex got some development. Brother Diaz as well, or Baez. No, Diaz.
It was Diaz.
Baez is
the wizard in
the First Law. And I would even say we got some from Jacob and maybe I would say Sonny too. But I mean, we just missed a couple other characters.
Yeah.
I felt like they were there and they were important, but they were important because you told me they were important.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes that we got great development from Alex, Sonny, and Balthazar. and that we got almost no development from. I put Jakob,
Balthazar
Reich,
got a lot.
Reichard, and Biga,
Baron.
Baptiste. I yeah, the
Baptiste, we didn't get a single anything.
uh
Literally, she was just a jack of all trades, had no development at all, except for alive to dead.
I felt like okay, first off, I did part of this in the audiobook, so that's why I said Jakob, because that's what they said in the audiobook. We can call him Jacob if you want, but
I mean, that's probably how it's pronounced, but
anyways, I felt like he was on track and then he had half development. I felt like his story
you're not
ultimately,
wrong.
and the way that his story started and ended, it was part of my problem with how First Law Trilogy ended, is that ultimately Jakob was in the same place that he ended where he started. And he didn't have, I feel like, a whole character journey. We saw like what his character was, but I don't think that we saw him be developed at all. We just saw
But
like a look into his heart.
I think at the end, though, what we got from his heart is you have to infer, like, from what he's saying and everything, that, all right, now I'm going to go about things a little bit differently. So I feel like it was there. It just took till the end of the book. I mean, it would have been nice to see more. And he definitely, other characters had more shine than he did. He was just the guy that, also, the problem I feel like with this book is we had every main battle. So we had a big battle with first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, and then the final battle. Every single person, except for maybe a little bit in the last battle, had the same role to play in each battle. Jacob was going to do something to protect them and win at the end, but also die and then get
Yeah.
resurrected. Baptiste was just there to do things. Honey would trick people up every single time while she was invisible.
The
Baron
Baron just
Reichardt,
charm speaked.
and that was their thing. So, I mean, but it just played out the same way every single
It
time,
wasn't
except for the final
special.
battle had some different things. So, like, for the first 60% of the book, I was like, okay, we keep seeing the same things like 4 times, which made like it being a pacing issue for kids just because of the way things happen. Like the lack of character development made the pacing slow, made the like engagement a little bit different. So, but I could have a half point to the character
That's what I
development.
did as well. I gave it a half point. I just wanted to see more from the characters. I wanted them to
I would
do
agree.
more. I wanted them to have more of an impact on me.
And also, I feel like the argument between want and need, I feel like we needed a little bit more. At least from like
Yeah.
even if we would have gotten more from Baptiste, I would have said this almost would have gotten a full point because the like amount they were in it for the lack of range for that character, even though they were a jack of all trades, they it just made it seem like that whole block anytime she's on screen was
Yeah. Almost could have just had a flashback chapter on each character and I would have called it good. For how long this book
yeah.
was, if we had a single flashback chapter for each character, like if we saw like Jakob stabs someone and then it goes into a flashback chapter about him, and we saw the Baron talk about his wife and then immediately goes into a flashback, like we could have just had a flashback chapter and I probably would have called it good.
You love flashbacks. You bring this up in almost every review.
I like, for some reason, I really like when the story, I like, it's because
It's a good way of storytelling.
when there's good flashbacks, I feel like it's done really well in story development, world building, and character development. Like Martin in Audition for the Fox did really good job in flashbacks, developing doing world building in such a short story.
World building, character development, like it world building especially, like you said.
It's like a cheat code because you don't even have to tell us about the world. You can just flashback and let us naturally learn about the world at the same time we're learning about the character.
Well, get the half point for each of us.
Yeah. Anyways,
Be like that.
on to the originality and creativity. How did you feel about this one? Hit me with it. Tell me the goods.
I think this is where the stem of the problem is for this book. I think that the reason this book did not hit any like big marks and wasn't anything to write home about is because although the story itself was different, besides their journey, everything that framed the story was it was following a formula, a recipe that's already been done a million times. Like the
Yeah.
found family, we got a bunch of monsters that are actually people type thing. Normally, even if it is the same thing, sometimes you'll see like, oh, they did this a little bit different, so it like made it stand out. Nothing really stood out about this story. Like this story, if you would have told me was really anything else, I would have believed you. Like it's just
Yeah. It
very, very unoriginal in its
is
I don't know what
unoriginal
to
in its
say.
premise and in its execution, I want to say. Like the
Yeah.
it's just like so it's like a D&D campaign actually. The story's like a D&D campaign
Yeah,
literally.
that's
Like
a good way to put it.
it's just a really generic. You get your cast of characters together. Each one does their own thing. You got your cleric, you got your basic barbarian, you got your werewolf, you got your sorcerer, and then you got your mercenary, your rogue, and then you send them on a quest. They have some fun banter, they have a few little hiccups, and they complete the quest. It just feels so like
And that's
basic
not a
fantasy
bad
story.
thing because, people enjoyed that formula, and I feel like it's like reading anything like Fourth Wing. It's like, what's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna be all that surprising, but you enjoy it because that's what you enjoy, and you don't wanna
Right.
read anything else.
Right.
We wanna read something a little bit different. So not
Yeah.
to say it's not bad, but it doesn't stand out at all.
Yeah. That's
And
what.
especially even with its like, if you want to break this book up into 4 parts, just based off of beginning, cousin fights, and the end, like everything just followed the same. Even the fighting was always the
Yeah.
same. There
Yeah.
just wasn't
Every act
dynamic at
had
all.
like the fighting happened the same in every act. Every act had Balthazar trying to break free. It was like all of the
I want
movements.
to break
It had
free.
Sunny feeling like invisible and doing something. Like every single act happened the same way.
Yeah, and it was not it wasn't it for me. So half point.
From
And you
there,
know what?
I gave it a half point too.
I almost want to give it no
I
points.
almost want to give it no points too. I was just thinking about that. I was like, I I guess we have to decide what makes it a half point. Do we think it was original or creative? Because I don't think it was original, and
I think the way the characters, like, you had a bunch of unique types of characters together, and I felt like I feel like the reason I want to give it 0 is because the world building wasn't so great that it made everything else just a little bit duller and like the creativity spot. Because I'm like, you had all these
yeah,
things that
he
you
could have.
maybe could have done, and it just wasn't. I'm changing it to 0. I don't think it was there for me. It was
This is the.
very,
I think this is the first time we've ever given a 0 in that category.
which is, yeah, that's tough
Because
because
normally we at the very least respect like a unique premise, and I just feel like all the execution of this was just so generic that I don't know that it was like.
which is a bummer because I really wanted to like this book more. And it's not that I didn't like it. It followed a formula that I was just like, okay.
Yeah. It just needed to do more in any category for the formula. It could have succeeded by having amazing characters or by having really unique world building or really unique storytelling or
Curious if there was
remember Dora on the map. On the map.
is a map.
Oh, there
I
is.
just couldn't
Map's cool.
remember.
The map's cool.
It's okay.
Dang. I said the map's cool. He firmly said it's all right.
I said you're a piece of garbage.
Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece
Still
of
a piece of
garbage.
garbage.
All right. From there, engaging storyline. I was torn when I made my notes on this category, and I initially gave it a half point, but I wrote ultimately I might end up giving this one a point and deducting it from pacing or vice versa. It's not that the book
So what are you
was.
gonna do?
It's not that the book was slow and that nothing was happening, but it was a long book and I wasn't very engaged. So I think because of that, I'm going to give it the half point. I think this still stays half point with me because it's just one of those. It's one of those things where I feel like I normally have a big internal debate when I feel like a book is slow. I was like, is this the pacing? Is this the storyline? Is the story not interesting? Is the book just moving slow? I feel like in this case, the problems that I have with this book are so widespread that they can't be boiled down into just a single category. I don't think it was
Yeah.
just like a pacing issue. So I think I'm going to stick with a half point in storyline because I don't know. It doesn't.
Well, like I said,
It wasn't super
the
engaging.
stem of the problem we usually see in at least indie books is structure. And if you don't, and other books are like, if you don't have, say, world building, you're gonna lack in a lot of other, character development. Or if you don't have character development, you're gonna lack in world building and like even emotional impact. Like one category usually stands out to what is the nail in the coffin, like if you want to call it for the book. And this one was originality because so I gave it a full point for engaging storyline, which I'll explain. Because even though it was generic, I enjoyed the story. I didn't think anything that was like inherently bad about it. Like if I were to pick this up and I read it, which we did, I was just like, okay, this is a decent story. I'm like having a good time reading it. But again, he has and I'll bring this up in probably writing style. It's so dry. Like his voice is dry, his humor's dry. And when you have everything about what you're writing dry, it makes it feel like the pacing's off. I felt like the pacing was off a bit. But for the story itself, like, I was entertained. I didn't have any points where I'm like, "Wow, I'm bored. Like, I need to get through this." It was just repetitive. So, even though it was a little bit repetitive, I enjoyed the things that were happening, so that's why I gave it a full point, but I think it's a little I mean, that's more
Yeah,
this is
I
a
think
subjective category, but I think that's why I gave it.
on the other end of the subjectiveness, I think I was bored. I think I was definitely like this book just felt so long for what was going on. Did the book just fall over?
What the things have been falling over in this room, like, the last couple of days. I'm
Like
haunted. I
every
don't know.
time we film. Also, we just got a text from Bookmarked by Jordy. Calls
Oh, we're
him
text
into
I'm texting
the.
him back.
We should call him in to talk about why he.
So Jordy DNF'd this. Book talk was it? Yeah, he actually DNF'd this. Well, I don't think we can call him in mid review or mid video. I think it stops it
Does it? I think he could join.
because if you do it while he's live, I think like he has to. He doesn't get like a. I don't know. I don't actually know. I'm just making stuff up.
Anyway,
Any
I
Moser.
engaged. I gave it a half point. Total derail. I gave it a half point because I think I was a little bored. I was ready to move on. I was ready to
That's
do it
fine.
to do other things. I was like, this is not keeping my attention, and I'm just.
And I feel like this could be
I'm
one of
ready
those
for other
reviews where
things.
no matter what you say, unless you say something absolutely egregious, I'm going to agree with you. If you're like, I'm going to tack a half point for this, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. But yeah. So, like, I know we're going to disagree here too. So, story end and wrap up, I'm going to give it the full point. And I think it's different because the way he does and finishes his books, at least from the first Law trilogy, he likes a sad ending. Or not even necessarily sad, just like an unfinished, this is where the characters are heading. You're not going to know. Characters are sad and bummed out, but hey, they're moving on. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Could be a little bit ambiguous, but I think at least in this story, it felt like a wrapped up ambiguous. You know where the characters are going. You know what they're doing next. Kind of is what it is. Because I think he gets the full point here is because I was kind of done with the story. So I'm like, all right, like this is where the characters are going to be. I'm not necessarily like, oh man, I wish I could have seen where this character, like, I'm just like, okay, sure, go for it. So I give it the full point there.
I'm having the internal war here
Tell me your
because
war.
I subjectively have the same issue with this that I have at the end of First Law trilogy, and I don't think it's a lack of a happy ending, but it's a lack. It's a like. Maybe this is just grimdark, and maybe I just need to get over it, and maybe I just need to grow the heck up and understand that this is how grimdark books end.
Okay, I think if we talk about this right now on the recording, you have things that you like very much, like flashbacks
That's what I was
and
gonna say.
like,
That's where I was
yeah.
going.
Okay,
I I
continue. I keep interrupting. I
I don't
apologize.
like
I'm gonna keep doing
the
it.
character, the lack of a. I don't feel like it's a lack of a happy ending for the character as much as it's like a lack of like a full circle for the character. Like it feels like, and that's what I was saying by maybe it's just this is grimdark, and I need to understand that I have inherent bias. But it's like the characters did everything, they strove, they grew. Some characters grew, they like worked for it, and in the end, it doesn't even matter. And that's definitely how First Law ended too. He took character development and he blew it up. And
But
now
and I feel like in First Law, the character development was blown up. In this one, this is just how the characters ended up,
that's true. That's true. And
in my opinion.
yeah, that's a good point. I don't. It's inherent bias and subjectivity for sure because he definitely from me. I have my own inherent bias and subjectivity,
I know.
but
I know.
I just it's not that they're it's not that they feel it's not that the sad ending is what makes me upset. It's that I feel like nothing was earned, right? Like feels like
Why
work
do the
was
characters earn
done.
anything? They're the devils, and they're under they're under enslavement by the Pope. They literally said at the end when the chaplain person, whatever the fuck her name was they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to like see the sun." We're like, "No, go below deck. Fuck you." Like they don't. You're a slave. Did the characters earn anything in this world? No.
I'm gonna give it a full point. I'm gonna spite myself on purpose here and give it a full
Why
point
give it
for
a
the
full
end.
point? Did I convince you? Okay, but you have your biases, but are they unfounded? Are you just now giving it a full point because you're afraid of having biases?
I don't
What are you
know.
gonna do?
I don't know what to do anymore. No, okay. It's not that I'm convinced as much as I'm like, I want to leave this one a half point, but I also, on one
Do it.
hand, I want to give it a half point because I didn't like the ending and it didn't feel earned. And I feel
If
like
you didn't like it,
or at least I specifically give points in the ending if it felt like earned or not. And it didn't feel earned to me, but I'm also recognizing that like that's kind of the point, right? Like his version of grimdark isn't necessarily like the world's dark and like the everything happening is dark, but it's like understanding humanity and that like cool, like they're still slaves. They did what they were supposed to, and they're still slaves. They're still the devils. They
I
get
feel like
no
this is why we talk
concessions.
things out.
So all that to say, like
I like we're discovering
I'm giving
things.
it a point in the ending, specifically because I'm understanding that there wasn't anything inherently wrong with the ending. I just have problems with it, and it's a me problem. I'm allowed to have a me problem
What do you think my me problem is
with the ending. Oh,
in general with reading? Not all my problems.
hmm.
Do I have like a like I love this trope and I if this book doesn't have it type thing? What is my do I have a reading problem? You can think on it.
I have to think
You,
on it, and I almost want to say I don't know, but because I feel like I have so many. I have main character simp energy for sure. I love me a good main character. I love good flashbacks. I I love my
you know what I do love is I love like a academy like schooling trope like Harry Potter. Love that. We're
oh,
going
like
through
an
school. We're
Atlas
learning the
6.
spells. I'm ending this right now. I'm getting off this recording. Atlas 6 did the worst series ever. If you've ever read that and you enjoyed it, don't ever give an opinion on anything ever because you're completely wrong on anything you've ever done. Story end and wrap up. We just finished. So world building and setting. I'm giving this a half point. I feel like setting, I understood. World building was a little bit could have used. And
Yeah.
I actually,
I'll
I don't
tell you
know if I
why
want to.
I'm
Yeah, you talk first, even though I already talked.
maybe this is where you're going, maybe it's not where you're going. What saves this from getting a 0 for me is that it's at least not like it's not basic Earth where he had to do no work to develop it at all. Like when
You hate
someone
that too.
I don't that one feels like not a bias as much as it is like a fair judgment. Like if you set your story on Earth and you do no work to develop the characters or sorry, you do no work to develop the setting or like great example, Ben Shankman, the devil, sorry, my boss is the devil, great world building, great setting. He did a really good job painting a picture of like the
Mm.
witchy bookstore and main character's apartment, the devil like the office
Dark
building.
Matter did that good too.
Yeah.
Did that well.
Yeah, like setting it on Earth, but doing a good job, like describing the surroundings, making me feel like I could go there, I could be there. That's like that you've done the work to develop it, even in a place where you are expecting humans to already understand.
Welcome to New York.
That's
Anyway,
that's not my problem with the Devils, but I'm saying that's what like saves it from getting a 0 is that it wasn't just regular Earth. So the fact that I had like any understanding of like the surroundings is that he developed the setting a little bit, but the world building was like we don't understand anything. He didn't give us any basis for anything. I don't under like that was it kind of feels like that was the point. Like it was just supposed to be like a fun, loving like intro to this group, but we didn't talk about like where magic came from. We didn't talk about like where vampire. We didn't know anything about vampires or werewolf. Like the world building was just so weak in this one.
yeah. So I'm gonna give this one a weird one. I'm giving it 0.25. Here's why. So world building, I gave a 0 because I feel like all the points you said are just expected to just like assume that this is the way the world is, which is fine if things are given like context wise along the way. We didn't get really anything. The setting, I gave a 0.25 because I hate when we have time skips or like I'll call them time skips, even though they're small. The characters are like, oh, we just finished this battle and now we're done. And then it's like, the next chapter. And they're like, okay, it's been 3 months and now we're at the next area. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We're on like the whole point of this is the journey. And
And
you
if
just
there's
are
a small
skipping months. And I don't want like they were walking and they were walking and their wagon hit
and
a
then they
rock
ate
and they were
lunch
walking.
and then they
And
used the
they
restroom and then they
but
ate
that's
dinner.
what you use that time in between to develop your characters. And guess what we didn't have this book was great character development. You know what we could have used in those time skips? Developing the characters that you didn't develop or toss a flashback in and then do the skip. This character's telling a story at the bonfire over dinner and it's a story of their past.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just it wasn't there for me. I knew it was when they were at places what was happening, but I feel like that skip really just pissed me off.
I don't
And
know
it
how
happened a
this book
lot.
I don't know how this book was so long. I just don't feel like
It was so long.
that was like my biggest problem was that the amount of things we accomplished did not feel enough for how long this book was.
It's like 540 pages.
Maybe not even that it was long, but it was so slow.
It was dry. I don't think it was slow. I think it was dry,
It was it was
is
one
what
of
I
those books
feel.
where I'm not getting lost in the reading enough that like time's passing. I like read for 5 minutes and I'm like, cool, that was like 35 minutes, right? Like I had to have read like a couple percent and it's like it's been 5 minutes and I've read less than
I feel
3
like
pages.
this is a good time to compare this book to Dandelion Dynasty. Both books are very dry, but in Dandelion Dynasty, the dry is you're getting fed so much information that like you need and want to know. This book was dry because it was written dry.
Yeah.
That's just the way the author's voice came through it. I feel like too hard for me, 'cause especially since I met him in person, and listened to him talk. Like, and it's not a bad thing at all.
It's just his style.
It's just his style, and I feel like it didn't translate well for me compared to having read the first law. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't my favorite, this book, and I feel like we even if we segue into pacing and structure, I wanna give this one, and we're gonna not agree here. I'm gonna give this one well, I wanna talk this out loud. I need to talk this one out loud before
Do
I
the
give a point.
do the thing.
So initially
Explain your problems and don't give it a rating, and I'll tell you how I feel like you would rate it by what you're telling me.
okay. I wasn't bored reading this book, but I recognize it was very dry. I had a problem with the fact that a lot of the things happened repeatedly, which we already docked a point for in originality. But I feel like I could use a dock in pacing because of that, because the book was so long and we also missed things like character development during the time skips. I feel like just the time wasn't used well. So I feel like almost that's why I want to dock points in pacing. Structure I have no problem with. Didn't well, that's a lie. Because the structure
The time
of
being
the
used well and the time skips and the way it jumps around, I feel like is inherently a structural issue.
I'm not even saying that. I feel like the structure of like if you were to outline this book, you have this is what we have the build up. Okay, good. We have point one. We're like, okay, good. Now we're gonna copy and paste point one 3 times and then have the ending, but the whole middle of the book is the same.
Yeah.
So it's a structure issue. Now that I say that out loud. And I don't know if I had as much of an issue with I just feel like it was more dry than a pacing issue because the things that happened weren't boring. It just was I was just reading it, I guess. There was no like excitement. And we'll talk about this in I guess emotional impact. But I feel like I'm gonna give this a half point because in my head the pacing wasn't the problem with this. It might have been the structure that forced the book to feel like the pacing was bad. So I think that's what I'm giving. I'm giving half point actually on structure and not the pacing. I'm sticking to it. Unless you say something to convince me otherwise.
So you think the
You know what?
pacing in this book
Do you want to know what why this we together might not be the best for this RSQ? Is we
have
feed
very
off each other too
yeah.
much. We have very similar thoughts. We need to we just need to be opposites because people like to see people argue, and we're like, you know what, that's a good point, Dakota. Or you know what, Curtis, that's a good point.
We need someone that inherently mood rates things more than us or more, I think, because we are like we really like to
Jordy,
yeah, we really like we really like the fake scientific aspect of it where we're like, all right, we're going to overanalyze this one thing and attribute it a point or not.
some people are like, this made me feel good. 5 out of 5. I hate that though.
I hate that
I
too.
hate that rating so much.
Makes me viscerally angry.
All right, tell me why
I know this had
you feel about
I know
book.
this had some character and world issues, but it was so fun. 5 out of 5. All right. Are you telling me that you feel like
Perfect book. I had problems with it.
now wait a minute. Are you telling me that you feel like the pacing in this book had no problems whatsoever? You feel like this book was paced perfectly fine. Before I'm explaining, I'm going to counterpoint that the way that you're rating it, you're saying that there was nothing wrong with the pacing. Plenty of things happen in the book to keep you engaged. You just feel like it had some structural issues.
I'm gonna say yes because the things that happen, although repetitive, I enjoyed all the scenes, even though I had seen it, in the part before because it was slightly different. I just feel that it would have been nice to have been, I guess, different. I enjoyed what it was, but I would have been happier if it was the other way. That's the thing. I have a whole video I want to do on this. You people either absolutely love or absolutely hate. There's no like middle ground. I liked what happened. I didn't love what happened, but I didn't hate what happened. It was just like I read it. I'm like, okay,
And that's how we move to 0.25 in 2026 is if we didn't hate it and we didn't love it, it's
I
0.25.
gave 0.25 in the previous category.
I saw that.
For the I feel like I'm still gonna stick with the 0.5. I'm all right with that. You haven't said anything to convince me otherwise.
I think that I am moving my half point in this category to um, the writing style because I think one of my biggest issues is less of a pacing and structural issue and more of a writing style issue, and I'll get to that when we get there. But I I think that you're right that there was not necessarily a pacing issue with this. It was just very dry. Now, I don't know. That's a debatable point because like if I'm bored of I don't know, I wasn't engaged, but I don't think that was a pacing issue. Things were happening throughout this book, so I will agree with you that there was that there was not a pacing issue, so I'll give it a half point here as well. There had problems with the structure. You know what I actually think? It all has come
I
full
would love
circle.
to know what you actually
It
think.
all has come full circle. I'm actually giving it a quarter point in pacing and a quarter point in structure because I don't think that either of those was a total fail, but I don't think that either of those was a
Mm,
total success. So that's I think that's the way I'll describe it. Is that this doesn't get the full half point in pacing and it doesn't get the full half point in structure for me, but not
that's a good
enough
point.
that I'm failing both of those. So I'm giving a half point in this category because pacing wasn't awful.
So I
And
think for me, the reason I gave it the full, if we're going off of what you said, that I didn't give it the 0.25 for structure, is and this is a mood point, is that the things that the way it was structured was just I just lost my train of thought like mid talking about this. I give it the full point because the structure that we did get with that, even though it wasn't bad, it was predictable because it followed that like route of this is the found family, this is the people. Like it followed this formula so perfectly that the structure was like this path's been worn down by the
yeah,
millions
you
of
are
writers that
walking
have
the
written
road
it.
most traveled by.
Yeah, everybody is on this path.
You
So
are
that's why I didn't
walking
give it.
in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyways, we beat that point to death. We both gave it a half point in um pacing and
pacing
structure.
structure. Emotional
Emotional,
impact though,
yeah. I really ironic because normally when there's so many half points that are thrown in and there's so many like issues with
especially in
like
character
world building
development.
and character development, I don't feel emotionally impacted. But it did the thing with emotional impact. We got enough
I,
emotional moments from enough characters that I felt like mattered that I gave it a point in emotional impact.
and it's weird because of his writing, how dry it is, and how he writes his characters. That even, especially in I was gonna say especially in a grimdark, you have like a hit or miss with emotional impact, but usually you do get a more emotional impact because these characters are going through a lot. Um, and even though I feel like you could kind of understand the characters, at least for the most part, even though you didn't see the development, you could kind of understand how they got to where they are, type thing, from what we did get. And then the things that happened to them, especially like I don't know, you kind of see with Sonny and Alex, I felt like a lot of their emotional things, and even though a lot of the things that were predictable, the big twists, it's like I can understand like how this affects the characters, and I felt super bad for Viga too.
Same. Felt so bad for her. I didn't feel like it's so weird because I didn't feel like she was a fully well developed character, but was so sad for her.
They kept like just like alluding to things, but like not alluding in a good way. They're like, "Oh, well, was I like this before? I'm not sure." Blah 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 blah. And
And
then at the end, we don't know.
that's what keeps it from being like I think a well developed situation,
Agreed.
but it was still emotional. Like
Yeah.
the way that her journey was explained was still emotional. And same with
And you could feel that you could feel off the page that the character was feeling these things. It wasn't just we were being told, "Oh,
yeah.
this character is sad." You
Yeah,
could
it
feel
was
that they were sad
yeah.
or had, whatever.
So
So
anyways,
yeah, full point for me.
all right. So writing style and prose, I I initially gave this a full point, and I think I moved my 0 from pacing and structure and gave that a half, and I'm docking a half point here. I had a really tough time with the like POV switches in this is like just one point that I think falls under writing style. And there was like no distinction. It was like a sentence was one character and then the next sentence was a different character. And it was like,
It was painfully not obvious.
yeah,
I would have to go back and reread the paragraph. I was like, wait, how did I miss that this just happened? Because I also gave it a half point. Writing was dry, which I did say was typical for this author. So I mean, it is what it is type thing, but it was so dry that I felt like it led to some of the structure issues. But the big thing was no, the POV switches was awful, and it wasn't just bad; it was awful, and also no chapter numbers. What year are we in that when you have a chapter, you don't have chapter numbers? There are chapter titles, which were sentences in the actual chapters, which I like, and there were points where like the chapter would end and would have a sentence that would then begin the next chapter by having the same sentence. Like, oh man, I hope this really doesn't go bad for us. And the next chapter is like, this went bad for us because of blah, 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 blah. Like it like immediately like segues that. I do enjoy that.
I'm trying to see if we like, if in
You can't just pinpoint it because you can't find it because it's immediate.
That's what I was trying to see, actually. I was trying to see if there's like
you're not going to be able to find it.
Look at this. Look at this.
Look at this.
Look at this. This is the example. You see that little gap? That is a
that is not focused at all for me.
Right here.
I'm sure that people can see it. It's just me not loading.
Look, can you see it now? That is a POV switch.
No, but sometimes it's not even. Sometimes there's no gap. Yeah. There's no gap. It's just the next paragraph.
But even just a little like. Anyways, we feel how we feel. If you disagree with us, that's totally fine. But the POV switches in this, I felt like were terrible. It doesn't have to be a different chapter, but like a bold, the first word, do something. Give me some sort of like.
I highlighted this, piggybacking off of what I said, not what you said. I'm just stopping whatever you're saying, ignoring you completely.
That's totally fine. That's normal.
When I said that I loved like how it would end a paragraph or a chapter and then immediately pick up with the same thing. So this one paragraph ends. All Alex could do was keep edging back and hope Sunny could see a way to get them out of this. And then there was the break, and then it says Sunny could see no way of getting them out of this. Big fan of that kind of writing. And it's so dry. It's not funny, but it's so dry that it is. And I really like that type of writing. And then another point that I did highlight, I actually only highlighted two things while I was reading this, was how can one choose a life of virtue? Asked Baptiste, piously clasping her hands without understanding the alternative. And that's a good point just in life in general. How are you going to have a point and just like defend it wholeheartedly, especially in today's political climate, without understanding like the other side? Like you just have to consider what both sides in anything are if you're going to argue something or even just have an opinion. Like you can't just have a blind opinion on something. Literally in any, or even an informed decision. Should I do this? Well, if you don't consider what happens if you don't do this, then how do you know what's the right thing to do? I mean, it sounds dumb, but so many people will just like do something because like, oh, this sounds like a good idea, and not consider any of the consequences or like the alternative. And it's just nuts to me. And so I highlighted it because it's so simple that it's stupid. I thought
there you have it. I also wrote I made a comment on the way the book ends in the writing style here, and I just wrote, I made a really big comparison to Matt Dinniman, and the way that you haven't read any of his other works, which is really tough.
Oh, I'm sorry. I only read 7 of his books that are huge. My apologies. Continue.
Yeah,
I was supposed to already have Operation Bounce House, but it got delayed from Broken Binding, so it should be here. Whatever.
Great book.
Wouldn't know. Continue your point.
Okay, we did this. We beat the ending to death, but to slightly redeem me, I don't know why I didn't bring this up when we were talking about the ending. Matt writes really dark endings where the characters don't get redemption, and I feel like we're gonna see that in DCC because he said that he doesn't write happy endings, and having read some of his other endings, which I won't spoil for you, like he writes grimdark endings, and I don't have a problem with the way he writes his endings.
Are they grimdark though? Or are they just dark endings? And also,
I don't know.
I'm not sure if this is where you're going, but I feel like Joe Abercrombie writes a lot of ambiguous endings where you're like, "Hey, these characters got here and now they're fucked. Anyway, this is how they will probably be." Like that's like his writing style type thing, and I feel like Matt Dinman doesn't write like that. I feel like there will be like a purpose to the badness, but I've read his other stuff.
Yeah, you haven't read his other stuff, and I don't want to spoil anything for you. I could spoil Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon,
I
but
do want to read that.
anyways, the way that that one specifically ends, I think it's the ambiguity that gets me, because the other works
That
that
you
I've read
don't
by,
like?
yeah, I think it's the ambiguity that I have the most problem with, because Matt writes he writes endings where the characters do not get happy endings, but he doesn't leave them open. He doesn't leave them ambiguous, which I think is what is the hardest thing for me, is that like the Devils ends with these characters who it's like, oh, it's wide open. Like nothing's changed from the beginning of the book. Like Matt, the endings that I've witnessed from Matt, the character has changed. Dang, that's what it is. That's the pin in it. Is that at the very end, I don't know like that anything has changed from the beginning in Joe's works, in Abercrombie's works, but Matt's endings, they end in a situation where it's like acknowledging the darkness and the reality of the world, but it's not the same as the beginning. Whereas in the end of both the Devils and the First Law trilogy, we see our characters reverted to a beginning state, like that where they were in the beginning of the book.
I don't know if I agree. At least in the Devils, I feel like we end the book, and although they are in the same spot physically, I feel like they're all mentally changed. If not all of them, most of them mentally changed. I don't know. I feel like it. I feel like it was at least different for me in the Devils. The ending of First Law pissed me off, but the Devils I felt like was there.
Anyways, that's fine. We can agree to disagree on it. It's just the
I don't agree to disagree. I disagree that we disagree.
So we agree.
Wait a minute.
So half point. I gave it a half point in writing style and prose, because the prose, they're just the way that it was dry
Yeah.
and the way that he did his endings. Those two things combined, I'm not giving him a full point here. It's getting a half point for me, Chief.
I feel like this really big category coming up, meaningful themes in depth, I have the least amount to talk about.
Same.
They were there.
They were there.
But they were in your face, generic, follow the road less traveled. It just there was no hide. It's fine.
They were there.
Sure.
And they were explored enough that I don't feel like it didn't have themes. Like All Better Now had themes that were told but not explored. But like this,
and they weren't even. This book, they had deep themes too. If you think about it,
yeah,
but it was
Viga's
just
themes.
They were deep, but plainly there.
Father Diaz's
They were deep
themes
in the ground, but we had a periscope leading down to see them.
Jakob's, like the themes on the characters that, even characters that weren't fully developed, we got themes on. Like Viga, we got great themes. I had complaints on Viga and Jakob's stories because I don't feel like they saw like a full character arc, but we got emotional impact from them and we got themes from them. Like we got Jakob's like inner turmoil about his whole life of being a soldier and like the meaningful/meaninglessness of that, and Viga's life of being a monster and the meaningful and meaninglessness of that. Like we got good themes. So 1 point. I gave it a whole point.
Great. I gave the next category a half point though.
Same.
Yeah. I would read if there was a Devil's 2 that came out. I don't think I would have any problem reading it. I wouldn't pre-order it like the Devils would. I would wait till it go on sale, but I would want to know what happened with the characters and the continuation of it. This book had absolutely zero lasting impact though.
Same.
Like this was the Kroger brand of, the Cheerios on the shelf. This was just so generic.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Don't think that, I want to say it's weird to be meta for a second.
Ooh.
Like, will I read the second book? I don't know. We're reading a lot of books. There's a lot of books out there. Am I going to read this? I would read the second book simply to see if it expands and clears up any of my complaints. And it's maybe popular enough that I'd stumble into that we would stumble into the second book for clout. But I'm not going to be like, Curtis, let's read the second. There's so many books that I want to read with you and that I want to read in general that I'm not going to be like, let's read the second book of the Devils. But supposedly it's going to be a trilogy. So
really, I thought this was going to be a standalone.
No, I did some internet sleuthing, and it's supposed to be. I think he might have made a comment about he's going to see what the reception of this was like before he writes the rest. But
hopefully, he doesn't watch this review.
Should we see if he wants an interview?
It'd be fine. We would spin it positive. I mean, I would never like make an author feel bad or
Same.
anything like that. Like
Same.
we're not bad people. We just
Are
rate
we?
bad books.
We're not
And,
bad
and
people.
that
You just need to be
and,
a better writer.
and that's the thing is he is a good writer, and this wasn't a bad book. I just feel like it followed too many tropes and roads that were already traveled for me. It was just very something already done, and I think that was the crux of the problem for me. So I mean, I give this a 6.25. You gave it a 6. RSQ weird score of
It's the
6.12,
first time that's ever happened.
right? And
Hon-
I think that's a totally fair score. I don't have any issues with it.
Honestly,
It was if it was in the middle, it was on the good end of middle
yeah.
for me.
Honestly, this book's totally skippable. Would I recommend it? I wouldn't not recommend it. Like, but if you have anything else to read, if you're looking for a book to read, there are so many books I'd recommend over this book that it's weird. Like, I
If you're
didn't hate.
looking for maybe a palate cleanser, this is a good book. If you're looking for something you're really excited about, maybe if this was your intro to Joe Abercrombie, it's not a bad place to start.
I don't even think I would say that. I would recommend First Law over this because I feel like almost everything that I had beef with in this is better in First Law, other than the ending.
You know what I do want to say that we didn't say? I meant to look up how many times the characters say "Oh God" in this book, and it physically pains me anytime it came up because it was so often
Should we do a
that I
quick
just
digital search?
do it. It was so irritating. It's probably gonna come up. It was like 4 times, but it was there were times where they like a character would say it like 5 times in a paragraph, and I'm like, this is insane. You couldn't think of anything else.
It's a lot of times.
That doesn't even seem like all the amount.
It says 67.
It's too many. That's too many.
Who said it?
Anyway.
Do they all say it? Is it just Alex?
No, every character does. Especially
character.
like, well, not every character, not Vigga or probably Jacob. Anyway, I really don't have anything else to say about this book because I don't think it deserves anything else to say. It's very generic. 6.12. I would, if you want to read it, go for it, but we're not going to tell you to read it, which means we're not necessarily going to there's no, you can read it. No recommendation.
That's what I was working up to. We don't recommend it.
We don't recommend it. Here's a book we read. Here's a book I pre-ordered. Here's a book I'm bummed about. It's The Devils by Joe Abercrombie.
I just gave away my non-signed copy of it to a buddy. I was like, I have a signed copy from Curtis. You want to have my other copy?
I'll show you.
Anyways, tell the people what we're reading next. Oh yeah,
we are reading Depths of Vanalf. I thought I had my copy nearby. I don't know if I do. Wait. Hold, please.
Please hold.
I'm moving, so all my books are everywhere, if not packed. But I kept this one out because we're reading it. Depths of Vanalf by Brady, who I got to meet in person on at a Dragon Steel. Where I met Jordy in person, where Dakota did not get to go. So super excited to get into this. We've already started it. I'm not too far into it yet, but I know Dakota is probably already done because he's a villain in my storybook.
I'm not finished yet.
He's like 98%. I hate him so much. I'm done doing reviews, Dakota. This is our last one. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Whenever it happens to be, when Dakota finishes it in 4 seconds after this video, and I take 3 more days.
Basically.
Anyway, skip this book.
Don't read this.
Do it for your own sanity. Just
read something better.
Yeah, just go read. I don't know anything else.
It's too long for how boring it is. The end.
Unless it's Atlas 6. Don't read that. Okay. Love you. Bye.
RSQ out.